What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Pack a Day Podcast. This breaking news episode is the Packers take two weapons for Jordan Love. I am your host today, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Yes, as we talked about, this was going to be a weapon-heavy day for the Green Bay Packers to get Jordan Love some weapons. And let's just be real, regardless of who is at quarterback, this is a team that needed wide receivers, needed tight ends, and they addressed both of those positions in day two and in round two of the draft. They get there in a little bit of a roundabout way. They take Luke Musgrave, first of all, with pick 42, and then they move down twice, picking up a fifth-round pick and a sixth-round pick in the process, moving down to pick 50, so from 45 to 50. And don't go all that far, but they take wide receiver Jayden Reed out of Michigan State. So they get Musgrave at 42 and then Jayden Reed at 50, and they get two receiving weapons for Jordan Love, which is, of course, what everyone wanted. Now, of course, no one can ever be quite happy, right? Because I know some people were hoping for Darnell Washington or maybe Jalen Hyatt. Let's go over those really quick and why Green Bay probably made the decision that they did. First of all, from Musgrave over Washington, as of recording this, Darnell Washington has still not been taken. I think they're around like pick 53, 54. There were a lot of rumblings, and I can't speak to this with certainty, but there are a lot of rumblings that Washington had an injury issue that flagged him, and that was going to push him quite a bit down draft board. So my guess is with him not being selected yet, that he is very much in, that teams flagged him for some sort of injury issue, and he is moving down draft boards for that reason. Either way, if it's Luke Musgrave or Darnell Washington, even if there were no injury issue, I love the pick of Luke Musgrave, and we're going to go over that more in just a moment. Listen, at the end of the day, blocking is great. It's really important. And I don't think Musgrave is as bad as even I originally thought when I first watched his tape. I watched him again recently, and I didn't think it was anywhere near as bad as I thought. Secondly, this is a receiving league. This is a passing league, and this is a playmaking league. And the Packers get a potential playmaker in Luke Musgrave. And it's not to say that Darnell Washington maybe wouldn't have been, but there's no guarantee of that. And there was a projection with Darnell Washington. So I love the pick of Musgrave. And then as far as Reed over Hyatt, to be fair, Reed is not their prototypical Green Bay Packer wide receiver either, but Jalen Hyatt really isn't. They certainly have weight thresholds that they like to hit, and Hyatt wasn't even close to that. As I mentioned, he also doesn't have quite the agility that Green Bay normally looks for either. And as of recording this, Jalen Hyatt has not been picked either. So these are two players that have fallen down draft boards, and teams have not valued them as highly as a lot of people in the mock draft community, if you will. But there's reasons why Green Bay went in the direction that they did. And again, I don't think Jalen Hyatt was ever really high on their board at all, and Darnell Washington may have fallen due to some of the injury issues. I'm going to spend a lot more time. This is just a quick episode breaking down the picks. I'm going to spend a lot more time on Musgrave than I am on Jayden Reed. I'm going to go over some positives and negatives with both players. But Musgrave, I did a lot more film work on, just transparently, than Jayden Reed. I've watched Reed multiple times, but just going to give more of an overview. And then as I break down everything tomorrow morning on the Saturday morning edition of the podcast, I'll do a lot more detail on Jayden Reed in that one. So really quick with Luke Musgrave. He is 6'6", 253, senior tight end out of Oregon State. 22 years old, will be 23 in September, 9.77 RAS score, did all the testing, so phenomenal athlete at the position. For those of you who are concerned about the injuries, this is what I posted on Twitter and what I believe. If Green Bay's medical team didn't flag him and didn't have concerns about the injuries, you probably shouldn't concern yourself with the injuries. They are very cautious with those type of things. And if they cleared him, you can probably feel pretty confident that, they're going to get a healthy, good player moving forward in Luke Musgrave. He, as far as the 9.77 RAS, 90 percentile height, 66th percentile weight, 57th percentile bench press, 89th percentile vertical jump, 96th percentile broad jump, 93rd percentile 40-yard dash with a 4.61 40, 98th percentile 10-yard split, 56th percentile short cone, 76th percentile 3-cone short shuttle. In 2019, from a productivity standpoint, 2 catches, 18 yards, no touchdowns. 2020, 12 catches, 142 yards, no touchdowns. 2021, 22 catches, 304 yards and 1 touchdown. And 2022, 11 catches, 169 yards and 1 touchdown, which leads to a 4-year line of only 47 catches, 833 yards, and 2 touchdowns. More on that and more in just a moment. As far as PFF goes, had a 60.9 grade in 59 snaps in 2019, 56.0 grade in 2020 with 312 snaps. In 2021, 60.1 grade in 694 snaps. And in 2022, a 72.5 grade in only 114 snaps before he went out due to the injury. Only played 1,179 career snaps. Those are productivity and PFF grades, not the positives. Some of the positives: he is a tall receiving tight end with great speed, great size, great hands. The projection here is phenomenal. He can win with speed. He can win up the seam. He has some run after the catch ability. He is a very fun receiving threat that should fit very well in Matt LaFleur's offense. As mentioned, he shows off speed after the catch. He can really challenge you up the seam. So he gets caught with a linebacker up the seam, or they're running some of those go routes on the side, maybe a 3 or 4 way go, and he gets somewhere where you can find him. He is not hard to find. He has incredible height, great speed, good hands, and he has, like I said, that run after the catch ability, a real true threat up the seam for Green Bay, something they have not had in a very long time. He has obvious red zone potential due to his hands and his height. He has impressive change of direction ability for his size, and he does give effort as a blocker. As I mentioned, when I initially broke him down, I didn't think he was great as a blocker. As I broke him down a little bit more, I think he actually deserves a little bit more credit. The negatives: he is off balance far too often. You will see him stumble after catches, and he needs to work on that because you want that speed to come out in that run after catch ability. He's not going to give you like the ideal blocking inline tight end. He's not a true wide tight end. I think you can really become that with some work and effort, just like Robert Tonyan worked on his blocking. I think you can get that similar level of blocking from Musgrave, but this is not a guy that's going to come in and plug and play as a dominant blocking wide tight end. The speed after the catch is good, but he does not break very many tackles or give you any real moves after the catch. So he's not going to juke you out. Didn't see much of a stiff arm, didn't see much of a spin move or anything like that. Like, it's just basically running away from players. And once somebody catches you, he's basically going to go down. He's not breaking many tackles. As mentioned, he missed time with a knee injury in 2022. Clearly, Green Bay felt good enough about it to select him early in the second round. And then the production, 47 catches, 833 yards, and 2 touchdowns only in 4 seasons. As I talked about him before in my preview episode a few weeks back, he should have accidentally caught like 9 or 10 touchdowns in his career. The fact that he only has 2 is weird and concerning a little bit, but that productivity needs to be much better at the NFL level, obviously. But this is a projection pick, and like I said before, I love the projection, I love the size, I love the speed. This is a really good tight end. I don't think Oregon State always used him the best, and I think Green Bay is going to have a much better plan for him. He is in the end, he is a traits-based player with injuries, limited production, and an unrefined game. Like, that is what you're looking at with Luke Musgrave. And that's in the negative section of my notes, but has every trait that you want at the position, can exceed at an extremely high level, but didn't do it much at Oregon State, had some injuries, and like I said, his game needs refining, especially as a blocker. So those are things that are going to need to be worked on, but the tape is fun on the good side of things. When you really see him play, you see some real fun flashes, and he's basically like a big slot wide receiver when you get him in space, and he is going to be a matchup issue for opposing teams, which is exactly what Green Bay needs at that position. And I do think you can use him in line a little bit. I don't think he is going to be like somebody that you can just line up as a big slot. I think he's going to get lined up, obviously, as a pure tight end, just something that he's going to have to work on over time, specifically when it comes to blocking. As I mentioned in the past, to me, his ceiling, if he really hits that high ceiling, is peak Jimmy Graham. His floor is like what Daniel Bellinger gave the Giants last year. His comp for me is more of like a Dallas Goedert. I think that's where he ultimately can end up. Probably, Goddard was really good last year, so that's an aggressive comp, but I think that's the type of talent and potential that Musgrave has. What he's going to bring to Green Bay: speed, a huge target for Jordan Love, someone to challenge linebackers up the seam, a red zone threat, and some extremely high-end upside. There was clearly value for Green Bay there at pick 42. I love the pick. I love exactly what they did at that position, and this is a really fun pick for Green Bay and something that they desperately needed. So I think that is that's kind of the nuts and bolts of Luke Musgrave. As far as like where he's going to be probably tight end 1 for Green Bay right out of the gate, unless they sign someone or do something different at the position. But as of right now, he's going to be the guy, and Josiah DeGuara is going to play. And I think they'll probably pick up some sort of blocking tight end either in the draft or, in free agency. Maybe they bring a Mercedes Lewis back. Not sure that's going to work out. Don't be surprised if they take another tight end at some point in the draft. But as of right now, this is tight end 1 for Green Bay. Meanwhile, they also select Jayden Reed out of Michigan State, only a 6.74 RAS, which still means he's a 67th percentile athlete at the position, which he's still in the upper 2/3 of wide receivers all time in, combine testing at wide receiver. 5'10", 187, so lower in height and lower in weight that Green Bay normally looks for. So this is definitely a bit of an outlier for them. He did not do 3-cone testing. And like I said, he's just not your prototypical Green Bay Packer wide receiver with the big size and the big strength and the 200 pounds, 6'2", those sort of things. It's a little bit different flavor of wide receiver for Green Bay. The thing he did have, a 4.45 40, and he looks faster than that on tape, which is, exactly what you want to see. The reason he looks faster on tape is because he varies his speed really well. He's not just one, like MVS is just speed, 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 speed. Like when you look at Jayden Reed, he's going to he's going to mix things up. It's going to be a change up and he's going to kind of lull you to sleep and then he's going to take off the next play. Like he varies it up really well, which is going to give him a little bit, more of an edge on more skilled corners and more nuanced corners. I've talked about this in the past, but it's like a pitcher who maybe doesn't have, the 100-mile-per-hour fastball, but they've got an amazing changeup that makes their fastball look faster, right? That's what Jayden Reed has. He has that change of pace, so they kind of lull him, and all of a sudden, boom, that 4.45 shows up, and it makes it look like it's a 4.35 40. On the really plus side, he had 46 20-plus yard plays over the past 2 seasons. What have I been talking about? This Green Bay team needs playmakers, guys that can find ways to make explosive plays. And they got 2 guys on this day that have the ability to make explosive plays in the passing game, something Green Bay desperately needed. He has return ability. He can play outside. He can play in the slot. I think he's going to see a lot of slot time in Green Bay. He had 3 career punt return touchdowns. He's a effort blocker on the outside. He'll get after it a little bit. So he doesn't have the great size to be a blocker, but he has the willingness to do so. And as mentioned, he varies his routes with tempo, which is something you really like to see out of your wide receivers. His downsides, athletically, again, he's just not testing all that great. His size is a little bit of a concern. He's going to get stuck on press coverage from time to time if you play him as a true outside wide receiver. Probably the guy that you want to move around, use in the slot a little bit more, use him in bunch sets so corners, especially bigger corners, can't get their hands on him quite as easy. He has had struggles with fumbles and drops, some concentration type issues. So that's something that's going to have to get cleaned up. And of course, just at his size, he's not the most physical player in the world, not a player that's going to, break a lot of tackles or, get a lot. He can run after the catch because he's got, good movement and good speed. But again, not a guy that's going to break many of those tackles. The thing that I really like about Jayden Reed is he is a different flavor of wide receiver than what they have. Even from Samori Toure, and then especially from Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, you've got your big physical 6'4" playmaker and Christian Watson that can win in every different way. You've got Romeo Doubs, who's more of your possession, bigger wide receiver that can still win downfield a little bit, can win with his route running, can win over the middle a little bit, kind of gives you that overall wide receiver. Now you've got a Jayden Reed who can be more of a playmaker, more of a slot guy, 4.45 40, return ability, run after the catch ability. That's just a different flavor. They didn't have that guy, and that's what I really, really like about this draft pick. So 2 players that are going to give Jordan Love some different, unique options. They had like I said, the playmaking wide receiver on the outside and Christian Watson can give you everything. They had kind of your standard overall possession type wide receiver in Romeo Doubs, who has a little bit more juice than that. But now they got the big 6'5", 6'6" tight end that you can throw to in a variety of different ways, and you can use as a matchup piece. And now you got the little not tiny, but 5'10" and a half explosive playmaker, 4.45 40 that can win in a variety of ways. This gives Green Bay different flavors at their playmaking positions. Add in an Aaron Jones and an A.J. Dillon, 2 different flavors of running back, and Josiah DeGuara, an H-back, fullback type. Now you're giving Jordan Love some ingredients to cook with, and that's exactly what we wanted to see on day 2 of the draft. I'll be back here later today with Green Bay's 3rd round pick, so make sure to check that out. I'll be right back here tomorrow morning with an all-new episode, and Saturday following the draft with a live Q&A as well. I'll see you guys soon. Enjoy the rest of the 2nd and 3rd rounds of the draft, but until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.